I never really thought I was gonna make this video, or I thought if I made it, I wouldn't make it for a long time. I am filming in my car today. Let's just embrace it. I had asked for video suggestions on a community post a few months ago. I think it was Blake. Blake, if you're watching, hello. Suggested unpopular vegan opinions or controversial vegan opinions. Obviously, this is somewhat of a sensitive or controversial subject matter, so I wanted to really take my time with it. I was like, I need to really collect my thoughts. But then, as oftentimes happens with a video that I think I'm not gonna be ready to make for a long time, ideas just kind of started flowing out of me, and I was just writing down all of these different opinions that I had, and I was like, oh, I guess I do have enough to make a video, and I guess I am kind of ready to make it. You guys who subscribe to my channel, watch my channel, the sense that I get from you guys is that you'll probably agree with a lot of my takes here, but from what I've seen in the sort of vegan community at large, some of these are very unpopular and or controversial. They are certainly topics that I've seen many arguments happen about online. These are in no particular order. So my first controversial opinion is that there's way too much policing over the term vegan. I don't mind someone calling themselves vegan if they eat a vegan diet for environmental reasons or health reasons. I think when we get into the nitty-gritty of, no, that's plant-based and you're plant-based and you eat a vegan diet but you're not vegan, it just gets so convoluted and complicated. And I think if we're over-policing the term, we're most likely doing more harm than good. Yes, if we're looking at the definition of the term, it is someone who avoids harm to animals in all aspects of their lives. But if someone is just doing it with their diet, in my opinion, they're doing a good fraction of the work it is to be completely vegan. And so I'm not gonna tell you that you can't call yourself that. We don't wanna promote timidity around the term vegan. We wanna empower people to want to call themselves that. I think there is some need to clearly define what vegan is, but in terms of telling someone they can't call themselves that, I don't really agree with that. And sort of 1B, so a second point but very closely related, is that I don't think that veganism has to be completely all or nothing. If someone considers themselves a vegan, but every now and then they're with their family and they eat something, I don't think that we should strip them of their right to call themselves a vegan. I think that veganism is more related to your intention and your effort that you're putting in on a regular basis rather than being completely perfect all the time. I'm going to tell you guys about this image that I like to think of. So I like to think of veganism as an island. All of us that are vegan are on this island together and we're having a great time and we're all really happy to be there. The island is improving, it's making technological improvements every day, it's growing, it's evolving, we're doing great. Then there's some people maybe off in the distance in the ocean or on another island, so these are non-vegans if you're following my comparison, and maybe they're looking at us and kind of pointing and being like, what's that over there? Like, I kind of want to check that island out. So let's say people start trying to approach the island. Some people might swim up to it. Some people might be on paddle boards. Some people might be on motorboats. Some people might be parachuting down from helicopters. Whatever way they chose to come, I want to grab their hand and pull them onto the island. But I think what happens so often is that there are these kind of guards. So these would be more like policey vegans being like, you didn't get here the right way. You were supposed to swim here and you cheated because you parachuted in. Does it really matter at the end of the day? They're joining us on our island, which means our island is going to get stronger, bigger, more powerful, more influential, and more animals are going to be saved. The last thing we want is for someone to have a bad experience, be like, well, I couldn't get on the island, so, and then head off into the ocean, and then maybe they encounter another boat or another person, and the person's like, yeah, have you checked out that island? I think I'm gonna go over there. And the person's like, no, I was just over there. They're not cool. They turn me away. Don't even bother. That like happens in real life. People have a bad experience, and then they share their bad experience with others, and it perpetuates a negative stereotype. My second unpopular opinion, I think this one could be pretty controversial. In the streets protesting is not the only nor, in my opinion, the best form of vegan activism. There's nothing wrong with in the streets protesting. I think it's great. I think it's powerful, but I think there tends to be this implied hierarchy within vegan activism, and on the streets activism is seen as the purest and the best and the only acceptable, truly acceptable form of activism that everyone should strive to achieve. I've seen judgment just in local Facebook groups that I'm in of people, saying, well, are there any real vegans in here who are interested in the streets activism, or is everyone just interested in talking about vegan junk food? In my opinion, vegan food, and yes, including vegan junk food, is a huge form of activism. What is it really about that we're trying to get people to do? It's mostly about food. Of course, we care about clothing and animal testing, and there's lots of other different aspects, but the majority of the reason of why animals are killed, the biggest reason is for food. If we want to try to promote vegan food, talk about where we can find it so that we can bring our non-vegan family members and friends, that's a huge form of activism. I have felt a personal judgment from vegans face to face for not showing up to a protest that they thought I should have shown up to, for not wanting to participate in their Cube of Truth event. I think there are so many important components of a movement, and I think that you need all different types of people to push the movement forward. On the streets activism is one of them, but it's not the only one. For me, obviously, my form of activism is making videos, having social accounts where I share my food, where I share information. That's what I choose to do. I wouldn't go up to an on the streets protester and be like, why aren't you vlogging this? Why aren't you putting it on YouTube? Why aren't you taking pictures of your food and sharing them to your Instagram? That might not be a form of activism that that person is comfortable with. Ultimately, telling someone that the way that they're contributing isn't good enough is just so harmful and doesn't really help the cause at all. Similarly, so we could call this 2B, I guess, or 2A, I don't know. I don't think every vegan has to be an activist. I'm totally fine if you just want to eat vegan food and go about your life and live your life as a vegan and not be an activist. You are already participating in the movement just by being vegan. My number 3 controversial opinion is that you don't need to take any opportunity that you can to educate or enlighten people on the topic of veganism. I obviously do a lot of my advocacy online on YouTube and Instagram. Most of this work is done for people who choose to follow me. I don't really talk a lot about veganism in person. If someone brings it up, if someone asks me a question, if someone says something I disagree with, then I will speak up, I will answer questions, I will politely disagree and let people know my opinion, but I don't sit there at group dinners, family dinners where people are eating meat and use it as a platform to talk about why what they're doing is wrong. I don't think that's effective. I think that's the sort of judgy vegan trope. I sort of feel like I have to work double time to counteract that stereotype. Honestly, I find in my life that the more I don't say anything and just mind my own business, I find people come to me so much more because they appreciate so much that I'm not judging them, that they're open to hearing what I have to say. It's really difficult to not speak up in certain scenarios, but I think sometimes when you just let people do their thing, they're way more likely to not only let you do your thing, but to be interested in your thing. Number 5, this is a huge one, possibly the one that I feel the most passionate about on this list. You don't have to watch graphic content of animals being harmed in order to be a good vegan. This is something that I see in the vegan movement at large as a big thing that almost every sort of big vegan voice advocates for, that you should bear witness, that it's sort of part of the vegan curriculum, if you will. There is no vegan curriculum. We don't have to watch these videos on a regular basis in order to hang on to our vegan cards. I listened to a podcast episode that was honestly the most impactful podcast episode I've ever listened to, and it was the Chick Peeps podcast, and it was Dr. Melanie Joy, who's a psychiatrist, and her main focus has been in dealing with issues surrounding veganism and how vegans can better navigate the world. She's the one who came up with the term carnist. She said in this podcast, basically when you're watching those videos, you're getting secondhand PTSD, which is basically PTSD from watching something bad happen to someone else. She had a quote where she said,
"The animals don't need need a movement of walking trauma survivors. The animals need a movement of healthy, self-connected, resilient individuals who are not going to burn out and who are going to be able to be their advocates for the long haul.
This just resonated with me so much. No one likes watching these videos, but if I see a graphic image, it will like literally ruin my day where I like can't do anything else. Because I struggle with depression and anxiety, watching these videos just exacerbates that. And I think when you're vegan, you're automatically so much more sensitive because we're constantly being triggered by the world around us. I need to take such good care of my mental health because otherwise I won't have any mental capacity to be a productive person in the world and specifically able to advocate for animals in the way that I want to. I have vegan friends who have said to me, I feel like I should follow these accounts. If you think about it, it really should be people who consume animal products who should feel that they should watch these videos, and obviously I do think those people should watch those videos. But, and this brings me to my 5B point, which is that I strongly disagree with sharing or forcing other people to watch this content. I'm sure you know the vegan channels on YouTube that sneak in animal torture footage, the Instagram accounts that will post graphic imagery. I have a very strong opinion on that with my own channel on Instagram, which is that I'll never insert graphic footage or just kind of try to sneak something in there because I know how that can affect me, and I don't want anyone to ever feel like I can't watch her story because I might see something that could literally ruin my day. And Dr. Melanie Joy mentions in the Chick Peeps episode that when you force someone to bear witness to trauma without their consent, they are going to associate that trauma with you and not with the person inflicting trauma in the video. So they're not going to be traumatized by the meat, dairy, and egg industry and resent that. They're going to be traumatized by you and resent you. I will immediately unfollow anyone who posts graphic imagery in their story. I get that some people but I get that some people feel that they need to watch that type of content when they sort of feel their beliefs or their convictions around veganism slipping a little bit, and they're like, I need to remind myself why I'm doing this. But I think that that should very much be an individual choice and not something that is forced upon them. Okay, number 6. This could definitely be very controversial in certain circles. Vegans get unfairly blamed for foods that cause harm elsewhere. Quinoa, avocados, almonds, superfoods, palm oil, etc., the harvesting of which can cause environmental and economic damage in the communities from which they're harvested. I think vegans get really unfairly blamed for the demand for that. I associate these foods more with just kind of like trendy diet culture at large rather than just veganism. I mean, avocados, almonds, quinoa, while yes, a lot of us do consume those foods, we are such a small percentage that we're consuming a lot less of those foods in general than non-vegans. Also, as vegans, we consume such a wide variety of foods that I don't think that too many vegans are kind of reaching for the same foods every single day. I know for myself, I really don't eat avocado, quinoa, almonds that often, but you know, I'm sure some people do, but I'm also sure a lot of people who aren't vegan do. I think that we should constantly be educating ourselves, thinking about where our food comes from, trying to make choices that cause the least amount of harm possible. But I think everybody should be doing that, and I think people kind of squarely placing the blame on vegans and veganism is a way for people to justify their own decision to not be vegan and a more convenient narrative for them. Number 7, this is a short one, but I think important to mention. I don't think it's a big deal to wear vegan fur. Not sure how controversial this is, but I have heard some vegan, sort of prominent vegan figures saying that they won't wear vegan fur because they don't want to send the wrong message. Someone might mistake it for real fur, and you could possibly be unintentionally promoting the fur industry. A couple issues that I have with this. Number 1 is that I think faux fur is to me, it's a pretty obvious distinction between faux fur and real fur. And secondly, if we're going to have that stance on vegan fur, that also means that vegans shouldn't wear any vegan leather products, any type of sweater that looks like it could possibly be made out of wool. My sort of goal for myself is to find ways in which I can make it clear that I'm vegan if I happen to be wearing a vegan leather product or a vegan faux fur item. I have some ideas of how I can kind of promote that I'm vegan without just wearing like a shirt like this. although I love wearing shirts like this, but I don't think that we need to avoid imitation animal products altogether. Okay, number 8. This one, I'm not sure if it'll be controversial with you guys, but I think this is, ooh, I've seen some arguments about this in some Facebook groups. We don't need to boycott every vegan company that gets bought by a non-vegan company. Did I lose you? Did I lose you fine? Is that the one I lost you on? Let's face it, the companies that have the most money in the world, for the most part in the food industry, are mostly meat and dairy companies. It sucks, but it is the way that it is. So if a smaller vegan company needs to find capital in order to be able to survive, grow, expand, be able to sell their items at a lower price point, be able to reach more people, and the only way that they can do that is by being bought by a bigger company that also profits off of animal exploitation, I am okay with that. Do I think it's great? Is it ideal? Of course not. Ideally, these smaller vegan companies would get funded by other vegans or other vegan companies, but at the moment, like I said, most of these big companies that have lots of money and ability to fund these types of expansions are non-vegan companies. Having to choose between either shutting down, never expanding, never reaching more people, or being bought by a company whose morals they don't really agree with, but who can afford them the ability to grow and reach more people, I can totally see why they would choose the latter. And by the way, I think it's fine if you yourself make a personal decision not to support a certain company because you don't like who bought them or how they acquired more capital. That's your decision, and I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the public campaigning against these companies. Hey, nobody support these companies anymore because they were bought by these companies. At the end of the day, the company itself is still vegan. They're still making vegan products. They're still trying to make the world a better place. If we are able to zoom out, I think that we'll see that this is ultimately a very good thing. It's ultimately getting a lot more people to eat a lot less meat. Again, let's get them on the island, even if they were dropped off by a yacht that we don't agree with because it uses way too much fuel. Let's still bring them on the island because we need them. We need to support them. That's my last point. I don't know, was it really controversial? Sound off in the comments. Did you agree? Did you not agree? Are you unsubscribing? Are you subscribing? Thank you so much for watching this video, and thanks Blake for the suggestion that I thought I would never do, but here I am. That's it guys, I'll see you later. Bye.